first of all, thank my classmates. All of your talks have been really poignant, so thank you. This was a little bit different. I was 17 years old when I came to Yale, literally on the anniversary of a life-altering event that now at our 45th reunion I can say was both transformational and life-altering, life-defining. I'm reasonably sure that none of you, my classmates, had any inkling that a stranger in a dark alley had changed my life the year before we all came to New Haven. I was on my way home from my job at Fenwick Park selling souvenirs, and out of nowhere this man appeared, and ultimately he almost took my life, but also saved it and transformed it. And I had no inkling at the time that this was what had happened. As I walked by a Brigham's ice cream store where I had a second job, a man came out of the shadows. I became the lead actress in a play on Life Stage that I had not auditioned for. He became the lead actor. The plot was one of life and death. Though I was the protagonist, I felt like an audience member watching the drama from the back of the stage in my dissociated state. The title of the play became Turning Points, a subject I reflected on in 2 books I wrote, Living with Vision, Reclaiming the Power of the Heart, which came out on my 30th birthday, and Healing the War Between the Genders, which came out in 2004. Little did I know my story would lead to an invitation to appear on the Geraldo show in a show about turning points, and as a keynote speaker at many professional conferences. So what happened? As a child, I was both a shy introvert and deeply spiritual. I did not talk till I was 3 and found my voice in music. I also found myself in positions of leadership, even in grammar school, without seeking the reins. The adults in authority somehow recognized that I could intuitively bring people together and address difficult issues with grace. So they put me in positions of leadership. They insisted I run for my class presidency in spite of all my objections. And at the big rally before the elections, I sat on the stage in the auditorium and I just spoke from my heart. To my shock and amazement, and also horror, I was elected president and I was appointed as the student representative from my school to the town school committee. No one knew that my home life was hell, trapped between a rage-aholic father and a mother with deep mental health struggles. I lived on a razor's edge between life and death, usually silently. Even when the pain became visible, like when I tried to hang myself in my 8th grade classroom, no one really believed it. The janitor found me just after I stepped off of a chair with a rope from a tall classroom window tied securely around my neck. He immediately cut me down, proclaiming, "You're the smartest girl in the school. This just isn't possible." I moved on to the most humbling thing I've pioneered in my life, anorexia. I figured if I could not control my outside world or the people in it, I would try to control myself. I had seen the Metropolitan Life Insurance charts for height and weight and became convinced that a 5'7" girl like me should weigh 117 pounds. At the time, no one would have pegged me as heavy. I weighed 135 pounds, which was normal for my build, if not a tad thin. But my pain drove me to strive for the impossibility of perfection that my judgmental father pressured me to achieve. As I approached my goal, I lost my period and ended up at Massachusetts General Hospital, seen by a visionary doctor who was studying why really bright girls from critical families starved themselves. She coined the term anorexia, did blood tests on me, looked at my hormone levels, and told me that if I did not gain weight immediately, not only could I die, but I might never be able to have children. She told me that with my build, I should never weigh less than 140 pounds. A leader on the outside and struggling young woman on the inside, my desire to have children opened my eyes and forced me to start eating and nourishing my body. I'd always had a sense of spiritual purpose, and I came to realize that bringing people together and trying to make the world a better place was worth living for. But there was another ghost haunting me. Everyone here was small when MLK, JFK, and RFK were assassinated as they were out in the world doing the work they were here to do. Though I was not yet 5 years old when JFK was assassinated, I remember clearly, and it hit me in the gut. I had that same clenching feeling at age 9 when first MLK and then RFK were shot. I already was aware that I had tendencies like them, and I became terrified that if I was ever going to follow my inner compass and lead the way they did, I would be shot too. And that brings us back to the alley. And the angry man who grabbed hold of me on the street, wrapped my pocketbook strap around my neck, and dragged me to a yard where he tried to strangle me. Having been a singer my whole life, I knew how to breathe diaphragmatically. I fought his tightening grip with every bit of power in my being. It seemed like forever. I did not know if I could keep fighting, and then he gave up. "Damn you," he exclaimed in frustration, "you won't die." He proceeded to drag me by the neck through some bushes into a dark pebbled alley where he started to beat me, and then he unzipped his pants. Though I had lived through my own suicidal thoughts and behaviors consciously and unconsciously, it felt different when my life was on the line at the hands of a stranger. And while I was doing quite a lot of community leadership for a 16-year-old girl, I was only a high school student and had not yet come into adulthood to take my place in the larger world. My fear of being shot morphed into the realization that my life could be taken away before I got to live my full purpose. And I became clear that I wanted to live. So I spoke to the God I was never raised to believe in. My father was terrified of religion, having been persecuted with anti-Semitism growing up. So as a child, my spirituality was nature. I used to joke that God is dog spelled backwards. Honestly, I still believe it. And my best friend as a toddler was a dog. But this was no joke. I told God that I wanted to live, and a little voice came back to me and said, "Then you need to commit to your mission." I told God I'd commit, and a voice came through my heart that said to forgive this man who was beating me and trying to kill me. Without using my mind to analyze or think about what forgiveness meant, I opened my mouth and spoke from my heart and said, "I forgive you." Shocked by this unexpected uttering from his victim, the man stopped beating me and burst into tears. In that moment, I was transformed from a crime statistic into a sacred healer holding space as the man emptied out his pain and grief. The first words out of his mouth were, "I don't want to be doing this." He told me he had been in jail before, that he raped and murdered other women, and if he was caught, rather than go back to jail, he would rather kill himself. I lay there quietly in my own state of shock, making it safe enough for him to unload his emotional burden, and when he finished about 40 minutes later, I could see his expression change from grief to a feeling of exposure. As he raised his hand to beat me again, I knew whatever was next was beyond my control. A car came down the alley right away, and the man pulled up his pants and ran off. I left my strewn clothes in the alley, disgusted by their sight and what they represented, grabbed my high school tennis jacket and wrapped it around my body and knocked on the car window. The man who was driving was very kind. He offered to drive me home and told me the same thing had happened to his wife when she was my age. While the major act of this play was now over, more acts lay ahead of me, including a trip to the hospital, working with the police to try to identify the man who had attacked me, and seeing an article in the Boston Globe the very August I arrived at Yale, saying a man had been caught attacking another young woman exactly 1 year later, and that when he had been brought to jail, he had taken a gun to his head and killed himself. I knew deep down inside me that this was the attacker, and I no longer had to fear he might try to find me and attack me again. While years of emotional, mental, and spiritual healing awaited me, it was clear God wanted me here on this earth. And having made a commitment to God to live my mission, I discovered that this man was metaphorically my first therapy client, as I pioneered a heart-centered method of body psychotherapy that was particularly effective in healing from trauma. I co-founded the first state professional association in the country for body psychotherapy. I later contributed to the founding of our National Professional Association. In fact, I was on a stage in 1996 with my infant son in my arms on an ethics panel. I later contributed, I later had a school as well. I knew firsthand that trauma must be healed emotionally at a body level. The experience in the alley was also my initiation into the power of the heart. My heart saved my life and was my connection to God. That heart-based intuition has guided me in my life, both personally and professionally, including developing and running a school and training therapists in an apprenticeship model, teaching at the university level, raising my now young adult son as a single mom with no child support, doing rescue work with feral kitty cats, founding Artist Alliance Group, and most intensively over the past 15 years, creating 16 albums of songs at the heart of our times, building social impact projects through songs, such as a domestic violence initiative called the Sanctuary Project that I did all of last year based on a song I wrote, inspired by and including words of domestic violence survivors, called Sanctuary. It's been a privilege to hold space for people of all ages and backgrounds to share their stories, to be a voice for the importance of emotional safety in our health, our lives, and our world. I would not wish what happened to me at 16 on anyone, but looking back decades later, I'm grateful for the gift of life and the ability to make the difference in the life of individuals, families, and communities from the lessons learned, and to have a deep reservoir of music that I expect to keep going well into age 100. And if I can get the technology to work, I'd like to share a little bit of Sanctuary until the buzzer tells me to get off the stage.